Good evening, good evening, everybody. We're back with a special edition of the Phins Forecast Show. We normally go every Wednesday. We will be here next one. We will be here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? We will be here tomorrow. And but tonight we figured we'd go through a mock draft for you guys. So we have it all set up. Mock draft. We're gonna do a first round mock draft. Everybody's been pre-assigned teams. We just thought it'd be like a fun little exercise before we kind of get into our mock drafts for the Dolphins, because this is kind of how I guess we would see the first round shaking out somewhat, kind of. All right, so first and foremost, I'm going to introduce my co-host tonight. Anthony's not with us tonight, but we do have Josh and Taylor. Josh, how you doing tonight, man?
Dude, I'm excited, man. The draft. This is my favorite time of the year outside of week one.
Yeah. Absolutely agreed. And Taylor, I know you're excited.
Oh yeah, this is my favorite time of the year. This is the only time. This is the only time I really have hope as a Dolphins fan. So,
yeah, this is kind of nice to have hope.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to. Well, we're going to start the draft right after. All right, so here we are. We are doing a first round mock draft. Now, I'm going to throw this out there as a disclaimer to everybody that, if whoever ends up with like the Jets pick, we aren't going to be, drafting them the top punter. Or the
you don't know. You don't know.
I mean, he better be one heck of a punter. Josh.
Hey, I heard the Patriots need a new ball boy.
All right, so we're going to get right into it here, guys. First round mock draft. Who is up?
That would be me, sir.
Okay. So you got the first pick here, Josh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as the Tennessee Titans, right, looking at the team, I mean, I know it says it on the screen, quarterback, cornerback, defensive tackle. I have the quarterback as the obvious clear number one need for this team. Wide receiver would be up there in the top 2 or 3 along with a defensive lineman, more primarily an edge player, right? So I think it's time, and where as a Dolphins fan, I am not sold on any of the quarterbacks in this draft. None of them, not a single one. I don't think any of them have franchise potential. However, it's irresponsible if you're a team in need of a quarterback as desperately as the Titans are, for you not to continuously take swings at the bat. You have the number one pick for a reason. The expectations, and this is not an indictment on the team. This is not to insult any Titans fans that are watching. Your team's not good, right? You're in a you're still building. You're still in I don't want to call it a transition because you're not really transitioning from anything, right? You're still figuring it out, which is totally acceptable, right? That's totally fine. So for me, even though he's not the number 1 or number 2 top talent in this draft, and with the first overall pick, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Cam Ward out of University of Miami, 6'2". 219 quarterback, threw for 4,300 yards, 119 passer rating. Looking at my notes, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Not stellar from a comparative standpoint in his statistics, meaning his like height and weight and speed and all that stuff. However, he's 99. He's in the 92nd percentile in medium range passing and 93rd percentile in long range passing. He's kind of a cannon, right? So you're going to get what you're going to get. He's got some wheels on him. And that's who I have the Titans selecting with the number 1 overall pick. Oh, also, sorry, we're not doing any trades. Not today.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
No trades. I'm going to keep on exiting out of these videos, just going to be popping up on there, but as I see them. Josh, I like the pick. I think I'm a little higher in Cam Ward than most. I think Cam Ward, from what I saw as a gamer, he's a baller. He goes out there, he slings it. He's the only quarterback I have rated as a first-round talent in this draft. So I agree. I agree with your pick. I think it's a nice pick for the Titans.
Thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Keith. You said like you don't have any quarterback as a franchise QB potential. I do heavily disagree with that. There's quarterbacks in this class I like. I think the difference is like you hear people go, "This is a bad QB class." It's nowhere near as bad as like Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis.
No,
like Matt
but
Corral,
I mean, how low is that bar?
You know what I
mean? Oh, it's a low bar.
Yeah,
but this class, it has potential. The problem to me is it's developmental. Like there's a lot of guys here that there's stuff to like with a lot of them, but nobody here to me. Like Cam Ward's probably the closest. I would probably have Cam Ward above like Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy in last year's class.
Yeah,
but that's about it. Like he is nowhere near as.
Yeah, I don't know about Penix though. I was a big fan of Penix.
So was I.
I wasn't as huge on him coming out of Washington last year. I think I had him like in the late 20s, 30s in my overall big board. But yeah, he's a quarterback who I think is really good. The Titans need a quarterback. It kind of feels like a slam dunk at this point, considering the way free agency went for the Titans.
Yeah. All right, so the Browns are up, and I believe that's my pick. This is an interesting pick right here because I know they need a quarterback. I know Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles again in the offseason, so I don't think he's going to be ready for the start of the season. It's anybody's guess who's going to be playing quarterback for them this year. Problem is, I don't like any of the quarterbacks outside of Cam Ward. I am not a big fan of Shedeur Sanders. I am not Jackson Dart. I view as like a second day kind of guy. So with that being said, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm drafting best player available here and trying to figure out the quarterback position on the fly. So with that said, I'm drafting.
That's a fucking great pick, dude. That is a great pick.
And I was actually torn between Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter because I like Travis Hunter an awful lot. But Abdul Carter has that Myles Garrett type of – he can have that type of impact. So you put Abdul Carter next to opposite of Myles Garrett, quarterback's going to be having nightmares.
Oh yeah, no, this dude is he's the best player in this draft, in my opinion, and it's not even close. And I'm a big fan of Genty. I think Genty is an amazing player, amazing prospect, but Abdul Carter is a freaking stud. I mean, 6'3", 250. What did he run in the 40? Does anyone know? I'm looking real quick. 99th percentile. So this let me rephrase that. Or let me repeat that. 6'3", 255, and he ran a 4.48 in the 40. The dude is a machine. He's got 100. He's in the 100th percentile in pass rush moves, pass rush strength, and pass rush skills. The dude is a machine.
Yeah. Taylor, any thoughts on the pick?
I think it's a fantastic pick. I don't think Abdul Carter is foolproof, to be fair. I think 2024 was his first year full-time at edge rusher. He does have that injury. Hopefully he rehabs it, comes back 100%. But this man is an athletic freak. I have here in my notes, people talk about a dog mentality. He's got that Clifford the Big Red Dog kind of mentality. Like he put on any game that's not Ohio State, this man absolutely demolished people.
Yeah.
Whether
what do you have, 12 sacks?
Whether it was a run, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. That's all I'm going to say.
And, he did play through that injury last year, too. Like, that's, got to respect it.
And you say you're like putting him next to Myles Garrett. That's enticing to me.
Yeah.
That really isn't.
Could you? Jesus, I did not put that together in my head.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That is terrifying.
That is terrifying. Quarterback's going to have nightmares about that. But we're going to move on to the next pick, the New York Football Giants.
I'm anxious. I am real curious to see what you do here, Taylor.
So I understand the needs for a quarterback here. And we just talked about quarterback. Last two picks, we've brought it up. I don't think Shedeur Sanders necessarily fits what Brian Daboll typically likes in a quarterback based on the quarterbacks he's gotten in the past. And I have a round 2 grade currently on Shedeur Sanders right now as well, late first round, early second kind of deal. But even here, they just need somebody to be an impact player day one. They really do, because their jobs are on the line. They need somebody. To me, my number 1 player on my board is Travis Hunter. I'm going Travis Hunter here.
That's a
solid wide receiver, corner. This guy he's certainly something. Like the instincts as a DB, the way he can get contested catches as well as a wide receiver. There's some times where it looks like he is being just assaulted by a cornerback. Like there's no way he's going to be able to come back and get the catch. Somehow does. It makes no sense. This man's an athlete in every sense of the word. I think he's the best player in the draft. Giants would get a great player with him.
So Travis Hunter is actually my second favorite player in the draft after Abdul Carter. I love Travis Hunter as a corner. I should say that first and foremost because people see him as a wide receiver, as a gadget wide receiver, or maybe even a full-time wide receiver. Some people are saying he's going to play both full-time.
I can see it, though. I could see it, though.
The recipe for injury is my problem. You have a guy playing out there for 90 snaps. He's going to get hurt, especially Travis Hunter's not the biggest of guys. I see Travis Hunter as a top flight cornerback. I see him as the second coming of Richard Sherman, Darrelle Revis. I think he's going to be that good at cornerback. And you can put him in. You can put him in a few times as a wide receiver, as like a gadget wide receiver, but he's got the ball skills, the speed, the agility to be a lockdown, shutdown, number 1 cornerback in the NFL type of guy.
Yep, I agree.
Love the pick, Taylor. Love the pick.
Yeah, it's a clean sweep. I don't think he's the next coming of Deion Sanders by any stretch, for lack of a better term. No pun intended, given that who his coach was. I
don't like that comparison.
Neither do I.
It's so easy, and there's so many.
But I will say this, right? I will say this. I have to admit something to you guys. So I'm a Florida State graduate, and the fact that he committed to Florida State and then decommitted from Florida State to go to Colorado or wherever the hell he went. No, he went to JUCO, I think, first or wherever to go with prime coach Deion Sanders before he went to Colorado. Yeah. It stained it for me a little bit, but 4 interceptions last year, 11 pass defenses. He's top 100th percentile. Get this, in both coverage and man press. This dude is going to be good. He's going to be really good.
Yeah. Agreed. So it's the New England Patriots on the clock. Again, Josh, this is your pick. Resist the urge to draft them a kicker, okay?
I can't. So, dun, 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 dun. The Patriots take a kicker. No, I'm kidding. All right, so this one was interesting to me, and I have to give a shout out to both Andrew and Brian, my very best friends, who are both diehard Patriots fans. So just for those viewers, I live in Connecticut. I'm in enemy territory consistently, and they are diehard Patriots fans. So I reached out to them before we did the show and said, hey, this is what we're doing. I have your team. I outlined the perceived needs, which are quite a few, and identified a few top ones, in my opinion, which are offensive line, right? They need to protect Drake May. That's essential. It has to be their top priority, in my opinion. When you've invested the assets that you've invested into the quarterback position with Drake May, who I actually think can be very good in this league. I don't see him as ever being a top tier, like top 5 type quarterback in the NFL, but he can certainly, if he continues to improve and if they put weapons around him, he can certainly be a top, tastes like vinegar coming out of my mouth, be a top 10, top 12 type quarterback at his floor, right?
Yeah.
So you need to protect him. The next thing, you got to put weapons around him. They have nothing. I think they have Mac Hollins, if I'm not mistaken, as their top wide receiver. come on. And then defensive line, both at the more specifically at the edge position, but across the defensive line altogether. So looking at the board, right? You have Ashton Genty, you have Mason Graham, defensive lineman, you have Will Johnson, cornerback. I'm actually going to go a little bit further down on the list and skip Will Campbell and go straight to Armand Membu. And that is who I am turning in the ticket for. 6'4", 332, broke records at the combine. So let me read you his height, 6'4", and his weight, 332. Are you guys listening to this? He ran a 4.9 140. He had a 34-inch vert and 115-yard broad jump. Those are 97th percentile in the last 10 years of the draft, I think is what it was. Don't quote me on that time frame, but it's been a while. He is 91st percentile in pass blocking. He is 86th percentile in run blocking, and he is still a young player at this position. He can play tackle. He can play guard. I would anticipate him sliding into guard early in his career at left guard and then shifting out once he's ready, right?
Okay.
Is how I would see it. But that is my pick for the Patriots.
I like the pick. Membu, maybe not at the beginning of the draft process, but as the process has gone along, Membu has become my favorite offensive lineman in this draft. I once had hopes that he was going to be there for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen anymore.
It's so hard.
He's a top 10 pick.
Yeah. And it's hard because I want to just say, okay, here's Mason Graham, so that these players fall to us, the ones that I really, but that's disingenuous to our fans and that's disingenuous to the exercise we're doing. So unfortunately, who I have as my top offensive lineman is going to the Patriots.
Yeah. It's a good pick. It's a really good pick. Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Membu. I don't think I'm as high on him as you guys are, but that's just because he does have a little more reactive of a style. Then that's just not my cup of tea. It's a little bit like Patrick Paul in that way to go to the Dolphins. There is something about Patrick Paul's game that it's not bad. It's just not like that nasty kind of offensive lineman that's like, all right, there we go. He can end the fight before it ever starts. But the athleticism's there, the production's there, the versatility's there. Like, this isn't, to me, like a project kind of player, like one of those kind of guys that's, he tested well at the combine, so he's going high. No, he was going to go high. This is just the combine put him over the edge. Yeah. He's that kind of player. So he is definitely worth being a top 10 pick, in my opinion. And, man, it would suck to see him go to the Patriots.
Yeah, agreed. But I do see that happening. I think the Patriots are going to draft offensive. I think the Patriots would be remiss if they didn't draft an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman with their first pick here, because their biggest thing last year, and this is a credit to Drake May, was they had a tough time protecting him, and Drake May took his licks and got right back up all season long. Never threw the offensive line under the bus. Shedeur Sanders, are you taking notes? He didn't throw the offensive line under the bus. So
that was the reason Jacoby Brissett played as well. Like, that was the whole thing. People were making jokes, and they were kind of funny. Like, oh, thank you for your sacrifice, Jacoby Brissett. So Drake May didn't get killed out there, and still they sent him out there, and the offensive line's that bad. So this is a definite need. Whether it's Armand Membu, whether it's Will Campbell, it's definitely a need for the Patriots. I won't be surprised if they end up going there. If not, Josh, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, wide receiver, D-line. And I do like how you shouted out Ashton Genty, because I do think the Patriots are kind of a sleeper team for him.
Yeah, I call them out just because I think he's the second best, in my opinion. I know, Keith, you had Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and I think you did too, Taylor, if I'm not mistaken. I think Ashton Gentry is the second best player in this draft. The unfortunate part is the second best player in this draft, which I think can be generational type of player, is at a position that is just devalued in the NFL right now. You know what I mean?
I can see Gentry going this high. I don't know.
It's going to be a perfect pick for another team, though. I have it in mind.
It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. But I'm next, and I have the Jaguars. I do not have them drafting Ashton Gentry.
You sure?
No, Jaguars, they need defense. They their defense was the worst in the NFL last year, bar none. Teams were able to do whatever they wanted against the Jaguars all season long. So I'm going to draft them the best defensive player on the board. Question is it Mason Graham? Is it Will Johnson? Is it James Pierce? No, it's not James Pierce.
No.
So
it could be instead of Mason Graham, it could be the other Michigan defensive tackle who I know one of us thinks is a better prospect over his teammate.
Well, so
okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So I like Mason Graham a lot. I think Mason Graham is a heck of a prospect. I have questions about his work ethic. I have questions about I know he came to the combine and he was like 30 pounds lighter than he was during the regular season. That's a problem. That's a problem because that's a job interview. And Will Johnson,
but and I don't mean to interrupt you, but on that, I hear that all the time. And players, and I've said this to you guys in our chat, players lose weight so they can run a fast 40. Look at his tape. Look at what he played at during the season. He played at what, Taylor, you said 330 was his playing weight, I think.
I think I have him at 320 during the season.
Whatever it was, 320. And he was a stud.
Yeah. Yeah. But if I'm an NFL team and he shows up at the combine weighing 290, I'm disappointed. I'm thinking, so you lost a ton of weight to run a fast 40. Like, no. Like, show up at the combine at the weight that you're going to be playing at, the weight that at your optimal weight. So I like Mason Graham a lot. I don't like Will Johnson as much. I am going to draft Mason Graham here. I think Mason Graham is probably the best defensive player left on the board. You get him in there, you get him up to 320, get him in the weight room, and he can be a game wrecker. So I'm going to draft Mason Graham here.
Yeah, he reminds me of how I felt about Brandon Fisk last year, where everyone was telling me, like, oh, you're wrong about Brandon Fisk. He's a third or fourth round. I'm like, dude, no, he's not. That dude is going to be a monster. And sure as crap, he's a monster.
Yeah.
That's what Mason Graham reminds me of.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. I think Mason Graham could certainly be that kind of guy. Except I think he's more talented than Braden Fisk. I think
for sure. Yeah.
He's a heck of a talent. So, yeah, Mason Graham's the pick.
So, two things. Anthony, our co-host, just popped in chat, said Tyler Warren seems like a Jaguars move here. That is low-key kind of the spot that I see Tyler Warren going. Evan Ingram just ended up going to the Broncos, and it feels like Tyler Warren's in this weird, like...
Yeah. No team's going to come out and say that their tight end's their top need. I think Taylor froze up a little bit here. My rationale here was simply the Jaguars need defense. They need talent on the defensive side of the ball. So drafting a Tyler Warren, drafting an Ashton Genty, that's a luxury pick. A luxury pick for a team that seems to be drafting in the top 5 every season. And that's with having their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. So that's a problem. That's a serious problem for me.
It really is. It does look like he is frozen. So should I pick for him, or do you want to pick for him?
Yeah, you go ahead and make the pick. So it's gonna be
me.
It's gonna be you. It's gonna be you Raiders and then Jets for you, Josh.
Oh no. Okay. Sorry, guys. That we're split here because. All right. So we're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
All right. So for the Raiders, right? Quarterback, I think the clearest need for them, right? Wide receiver, cornerback. I mean, the Raiders need help, right? I mean, maybe outside of it looks like he's back. Here he goes.
All right.
My bad, guys. I have no idea what just happened.
You're on the Raiders. You're on the Raiders. You're up, buddy.
We made the right move here with the Giants because I believe they just signed Russell Wilson.
Wow.
Really? The contract details.
Okay.
Yep. Just popped up. 1 year deal worth $21 million for 1 year.
I can certainly understand why Russell Wilson would go there for $21 million, but he's joining an absolute train wreck. Good luck to him.
Yeah, have fun.
Not the Jaguars, the Raiders at number 6 here. There's a few ways I think this can go. Cornerback is a need, wide receivers a need, running backs a need. I guess they could also use some people on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
To me, though, I think the two most enticing names are Ashton Genty and Tet McMillan.
Okay.
I'm going to go Ashton Genty here.
Ashton
Wow. The first surprise, in my opinion.
I think this is starting to become a bit popular, and the Raiders do need more wide receiver help.
Yeah.
But, man, the talent of Ashton Genty with what Pete Carroll likes to do.
Yeah. He can be as Marshawn Lynch. I'm not saying they're comparable, like from a play style and stuff, which I guess they kind of are. But, the Cowboys are pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but you know who's not pissed? From the grave, Al Davis just gave a little cheer.
He sure did. He sure did.
Al Davis loves that pick, Taylor. And I do too, and I think it's a very Raiders thing to do. It's not necessarily the direction I would go in if I was the Raiders, but there's no telling what they're going to do. There's no telling what Pete Carroll wants to do with this pick. But getting him his Marshawn Lynch could do worse.
He'd do much worse.
Yeah.
All right, so Josh, you're on the clock with the New York Football Jets.
Can I review? If I just wait long enough, will it skip them?
You can try.
All right. Well, then we're just going to sit here and stare at your beautiful face. All right. So the Jets, right? I have their top three needs as tight end, offensive line, and cornerback. Now, it just so happens there have been a ton of reports out there. Oh, this is going to make me nauseous picking this guy for him. That they have shown significant interest in Tyler Warren, right? They need an upgrade at the position. Offensive line, they need to improve the protection, right? And unfortunately, given and cornerback, right? So they need to add depth to their secondary and bolster their pass defense. But given those three needs, they decide to take the kicker out of Arkansas. No, I'm kidding. They are actually going. I have them selecting Tyler Warren out of Penn State.
Yeah,
sucks.
I can see it.
Hey, hold on. Josh and I had a talk a few hours ago, and I mentioned last year I was so happy that the Jets didn't get Brock Bowers, and I feel like you took what I said there and you kind of just stabbed me in the heart.
You know what? I stabbed myself in the heart because honestly, I would rather give them Sador Sanders at this point, right? I mean, it's just someone else, right, other than Tyler Warren, because I think Tyler Warren is going to be a monster. 6'6". Right, 256 was his playing weight. He ran a 4.68 40. He had 104 receptions last year, 1,200 plus yards, 8 touchdowns. The dude can block, he can catch, he can run. He runs crisp routes as a tight end. He's going to be, at least in my opinion, more of a split off the line type player. Think of how the Dolphins used to use Mike Gesicki. Not comparing the two, they're not in the same stratosphere, but for Dolphins fans in that realm where he's basically a very large 6'6" wide receiver. The dude is a monster. And
plays quarterback. He's played center.
Yeah. I mean, he's played everything, and I think he's an underrated blocker. I know there are some reports and there are some pundits that really just don't like him as a blocker yet, that he needs a little bit of work, which sure. But I also believe that tight end is one of the top 3 hardest positions to play in the NFL coming out of college. So, there needs to be some grace, but he will make some 50-50 balls and he will make some highlight reel catches. And it sucks that I had to mock him. But again, to the fans, we are trying our very best to be as genuine as possible and not be disingenuous with how we assess and who we pick for these teams, even though the Jets can go themselves.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Carolina, I want to throw out my comp for Tyler Warren. I'm curious what you guys think. I have Taysom Hill plus Trey McBride.
I don't see Taysom Hill.
Neither do I.
But Trey McBride makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, they're both just athletic freaks. My comp was honestly Travis Kelce. Like, Tyler Warren can be that good.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but that I'm so that's like saying, the quarterback, his comp is Dan Marino. Yeah. Well, not for you because he's not a top 10 quarterback, but
I just think I just think when it comes to Tyler Warren, he's actually more fluid than Travis Kelce. He's a little more athletic than Travis Kelce.
Agreed.
But he has that kind of body control. He has that kind of get up and get the ball.
It's faster.
I like the pick for the Jets. I like the pick for the Jets. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm cheering over this pick.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you had to do it, Josh. So I
didn't want to. I'm sorry.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Carolina Panthers. This is a tough team to project right now. They have, you know, I would say they need cornerback, wide receiver, definitely. They still need offensive line help. They need to protect Bryce Young, who had kind of a resurgence last year after he got benched, actually. Now, what's that?
I said crazy.
Yeah,
he got benched and they were like, "Oh, give us a second round pick and you can have him." And then he turned around and actually put up some damn good numbers at the end of the year.
Yeah, and he looked like he belonged. So credit to him for doing that. I look at the Panthers and I think they need to get him more weapons. You know, they drafted Xavier Leggett in the second round last year. They brought back Adam Thielen. But the cover's kind of bare there as far as weapons go. And there's a wide receiver here, Ted McMillan, who is big. He's fast. He's strong. He's a future number one. Ted McMillan is my pick.
Oh man, pairing his talent with Xavier Leggett is going to give them a nice 1-2 punch.
Yes,
it really is.
And they're going to probably go, you know, offensive line heavy later on in the draft. They still need defensive help. That team needs a lot. But what they need is an alpha in the wide receiver room. And Ted McMillan could be that, in my opinion.
That's a good pick. It's a really good pick.
Thank you. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this move. I'm not going to lie to you. I am really trying to figure out who the hell I'm going to pick for the Saints.
Okay. All right.
I do like Ted McMillan. I like Ted McMillan. I think he's a big target. I think he's going to be like his 2024 tape. I do remember hearing people say, yeah, it's not as explosive as 2023. And that was my big issue with him. But you go back to see that 2023 film where he was, I think he was a little banged up in 2024, where he was coming off an injury. And there is a little bit of a difference. So I think you will see a little more explosiveness with him in the NFL.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand why he's dropping, honestly, because you can see a guy that big, that fast, you know, he could move like that. You know, he looks like a bigger version of Drake London to me. So I don't understand why he's dropping on a lot of teams' boards. It's kind of confounding to me, but he's a player I like a lot, and I see him as a top 10 pick, and I think it would be criminal if he didn't go in the top 10 somewhere.
Well, the reason I'm hearing he's dropping is because his arm length was short, his hands were small, his 40, he ran a 4.5 40. I mean, not spectacular, right? For what he was kind of projected to be. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'4". That's really outstanding. Right. But even, you know, he only had 84 receptions last year, 1,300 yards. And again, we are not professionals at this. We're quasi-professionals that do this for fun. We were not in any of the interview rooms, but apparently he did not interview very well from what I'm reading.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. But that's my pick. I'm not taking it back.
No, it's a good one.
The Saints are on the clock for you, Taylor.
Look, the Saints are in a spot where they need just an impact player. They need somebody who can come in day one, be a starter. I know that seems like, no duh. Every single one of these teams need that. True, but the Saints are kind of in that position to where they're in a huge rebuild, and we just need to figure out who are our foundational pieces. And looking through these players, there's one guy that I'm not totally sold on him as a tackle, but I do think he's going to be a dang good offensive lineman. That's Will Campbell from LSU.
Oh, you stole him. Damn it.
He is a leader with a capital L. He had I forgot what reward it was, but he won some award that is for leadership. He could wear number 7 at practice, which I don't remember what player it's for. Doesn't really matter. But short arms, so he probably won't end up playing tackle. But, man, once he gets his grips on you, you're not going. Like, he is just that good at anchoring down. I'd like him as a pass blocker and a run blocker. His tape is good. It's just not – he's like a step below the Joe Alt kind of players to me. That's what held him back. Like, if he had that Joe Alt kind of tape, he'd be top of the first round, top 5 pick.
Well, they also say he has shorter arms, not like super short arms, but he has guard arms, not tackle arms. I don't know that I see that, but I love the pick, Taylor. I love Will Campbell as a prospect.
Me too.
And if he's there for the Dolphins, they should run to the podium to turn in the ticket for Will Campbell. But I love the pick, Taylor. Honestly, it's a great pick for the Saints.
Plus, they got Fuaga last year, who I really like at tackle. This is another great building piece. You're building in the trenches, and let's just see what you have it then to 2025, and then go from there.
Yep.
I like it. That's a great damn pick. Really is.
All right, we're moving on to the Chicago Bears.
All right. So the Bears, right, looking at their roster, Caleb Williams, they got a couple young pieces, or one really decent, or actually not decent, really good wide receiver that was also drafted last year, and Roma Dunze. Yeah. Good, great, good tandem, right? I still think for me, when I was looking at their roster and looking at their needs, offensive line, interior defensive line, and another impact wide receiver in the same, and also of the same importance as cornerback. Right. So that's really the top two, and then kind of pick your poison, best player available at wide receiver or cornerback. So who I was going to pick for them just went ahead of them. And this is why I love doing live mock drafts, because we have to like pivot on the fly. Right. So for me, it's down to 3 different players. Will Johnson at cornerback answers their cornerback need, will be their primary alpha, in my opinion. If not this year, definitely next year. Kevin Banks Jr., he can play tackle. He can play guard. Me personally, this is a little high for Banks Jr. Based on his combine and based on things that, reports that he's falling on boards, but he's still a good player. He's got line flexibility. I think that's really important for a team that's trying to figure out how to protect their franchise quarterback. So a player like Banks, for example, allows you to move pieces around, right? So if he does it, you keep him at tackle, you can put him at guard. And the other one is Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan, which is probably a little bit lower on the list. And that is who I'm going with. Kenneth Grant is a machine. He's I think he is the best defensive tackle in this draft, in my humble opinion, for whatever it's worth. Closely followed by his teammate, but 6'3", ran a 4.9 40. The dude is just, he's stacked and he knows what he's doing, right? He only had 3 sacks, but played primarily on the interior defensive line. Weighs 331, which is 95th percentile for all defensive tackles. 82 percentile, 82nd percentile. I can't speak English apparently. In the 40. Yep, you're picking it up right now. 90 percentile in the run defense, 81 percentile in pass rushing, 76 percentile in tackling. I mean, the guy is just good. He is the epitome of solid at this position, right? He's not going to be overly flashy. He's not going to, wow you. He's not, a defensive end type player, but what he will do is he will be disruptive. He will suck in blocks and he will make impact plays. And when you're a team like Chicago, in my opinion, who have a few needs, given the amount of capital they have and given how the board fell, I just felt that it was really between him and Will Johnson. And I have him rated drastically higher than Will. I mean, drastically, but rated a few spots higher than Will Johnson as a player. And I just think at this point with if I'm the Bears and I'm looking at the draft board, I'm looking at my draft board, my war room draft board, and I'm taking the best player available. And for me, that was Kenneth Grant.
Surprise pick. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't see Kenneth Grant going in the top 10. I could certainly see the need there. If I'm the Bears, I'm probably going offensive line. Because you need to protect Caleb Williams. You need to
Even with the moves they made in the free agency?
Yeah, because if you look at what the Ben Johnson came from Detroit.
Yeah.
You look at what Detroit did well was they had a great offensive line that allowed Jared Goff the time to pick apart defenses. If you're serious about Caleb Williams being a franchise quarterback, you got to put an offensive line in front of him. I still think the Bears needed more offensive linemen, but Kenneth Grant certainly.
So let me ask you a question, right? Because I agree. Offensive lineman was going to be my pick until he got to who I thought would be the perfect fit for him, went one pick above. If you had to compare Kenneth Grant's talent with Kevin Banks Jr. talent, who I think is the best player on the offensive line on the board right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could scroll down, you could look. There's a couple other ones that are good, right? But not in the 10th pick, right? Between Kenneth Grant and Kevin Banks Jr., there's one philosophy where you take the best player available at a position of need, or you take a lesser player at a I don't want to say more perceived position of need. I can't think of the way to word it, but you're taking a lesser player if you were to take, for example, Kevin Banks Jr., in my opinion, like a significantly less player when you're comparing the two.
I don't view Kevin Banks as a lesser player. I think Kelvin Banks is a dog, and that would have been my pick. And spoiler alert, I have the 49ers next. I'm going to be drafting Kelvin Banks for the 49ers.
Well, there you go. I'm guessing he's a dog.
Yeah. No, the 49ers are a team that their cupboard got absolutely raided this offseason. They lost a ton of dudes. I'm not even going to go through the list, but it's ridiculous. But they're about to pay Brock Purdy franchise quarterback money. Not certain he deserves that, but it's not for me to say. I'm not the biggest fan of Brock Purdy, but if you're going to pay him Brock Purdy money, you better put an offensive line in front of him. And they lost Aaron Banks in free agency, who I think is a really underrated offensive guard, and they're going to replace him with Kelvin Banks.
It's a great pick. That's a great pick. And please don't take what I was saying about the previous pick as a slight on Kevin Banks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Banks is a phenomenal player. I think that's an amazing pick for San Francisco, and that kind of is upsetting.
Yeah, they have to be happy he fell to them. A guy like that fell to him. So next we have the Cowboys, and I believe that's Taylor, the delusional Dolphins fan. The delusional fan.
I cannot wait to see this pick.
So you guys were talking about Kevin Banks Jr. being the best offensive lineman on the board. At that time, I do kind of disagree because I'm picking who I thought was the best offensive lineman or best interior offensive lineman, let me say, still on the board, and that is Tyler Booker. This guy is a tone setter.
Wow. That is a surprise pick.
You're picking him for the Cowboys, Taylor?
Yep, picking him for the Cowboys.
All right.
He is a tone-setting offensive lineman. He is a nasty run blocker, a nasty pass protector. The only flaws I really see in his game is with speed, is with that athleticism. But, man, what he brings in power, what he brings with that situational IQ, he can pick up stunts, all that kind of stuff. Like, he is kind of exactly what Dallas needs, man. And when they lost Zach Martin, they lost somebody who they had a decade of experience with. You can just plop him in, and I think you're good for the next decade. I really do.
Well, I love Tyler Booker. And what I love most about Tyler Booker, especially for the Dallas Cowboys, Taylor, is that he fits what the Cowboys want to do offensively, which is that power running. I don't know. I love Tyler Booker for the Dolphins, but I don't think he fit like you said, Taylor. Like his one drawback is speed. So he might not fit the zone scheme the Dolphins run, but that power scheme, that Marty Ball scheme, Brian Schottenheimer's a new coach down in Dallas. Tyler Booker's perfect, and he'll slide right in to right guard where Zach Martin was there for 10 years. I love that pick, Taylor. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah. To be clear, by the way, I really like Kelvin Banks. I think that's a great pick for San Fran. I think it fits the scheme very well, too.
Yeah.
And especially moving him to guard from tackle, man, I think that's a great move. But when it comes to like, I think these two teams get the perfect player for them in this mock draft.
They
I
do.
really do.
Guys, I'm going to, before you make your pick, Josh, before you make the Dolphins pick,
Oh boy,
the
No
one
pressure.
we're all anticipating, I'm actually going to go through here and just do a quick review of the top 12 picks. So, with the first pick, Josh had that. He took Cam Ward for the Titans. Very good pick. Abdul Carter, I took him for the Browns. Travis Hunter went to the New York Giants. Taylor took him. Armand Membu, maybe the first quote-unquote surprise pick, went to the New England Patriots. Shouldn't be too surprised. Armand Membu's rocketing up boards. I gave Mason Graham to the Jaguars. They were a hard team to pick for, honestly. I wasn't entirely sure I was going to go with that pick until I actually made it. And then Taylor gave Ashton Jensen to the Raiders. Again, Al Davis just gave a thumbs up from the grave. Tyler Warren went to the New York Jets. Another kind of surprise pick, but not if you. Also, I wanted to say Cole Kmet was Justin Fields' absolute best friend when he was in Chicago, and Tyler Warren's going to be an even better friend to Justin Fields. I took Ted McMillan for the Carolina Panthers at number 8. Will Campbell, an offensive guard, offensive tackle, depending on how you view him, went to the New Orleans Saints at number 9. Kenneth Grant, bit of a surprise pick, went to the Chicago Bears at number 10. Josh is a big fan of Kenneth Grant. Kelvin Banks went to the 49ers at number 11. And then Taylor just drafted Tyler Booker for the Dallas Cowboys. That's the top 12. We're getting to number 13. This is a Dolphins channel, and the Dolphins are about to pick. And Josh, the pressure is on.
Yes. So I want to propose something. Because this is a Dolphins channel, we can do one of two things. I can just pick for them, right? Or do we want to do this by community, right? And let's talk about the players and make that pick. I'm happy to do either way. I know who I'm going to pick, but it's up to you.
I think you should just make the pick, Josh.
All right, so let's
because we're gonna do the full Dolphins thing tomorrow. So
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Spoiler alert: tomorrow's show, full Dolphins 7-round mock draft live and in living color, fellas. All right, so Miami Dolphins. I think we all know their needs, right? Guard is their top need, in my opinion. Well, actually, that's a lie. Cornerback, in my opinion, is their top need. Barely edging out offensive guard and defensive line, right? So those are kind of, among other things. You need a wide receiver 2 or 3, maybe. Probably more of a wide receiver 3 right now. We need a safety, I think is another key position that we need. But I have narrowed this down, and Keith, you're not going to like this. I know how you feel about not taking an offensive lineman in round 1 for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. This is a decision between 2 cornerbacks for me. Right. Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron. Now, I am a Jahdae Barron fan. I think he is a better prospect than Will Johnson. Not by a lot, but close. Only because of his positional flexibility. He's played inside at Texas. He's played outside at Texas. Whereas Will Johnson is primarily, in my opinion, an outside cornerback, which is not to say that is a slight on Will Johnson. Will Johnson is taller at 6'2". Jahdae Barron is a shorter player, but is faster. He's 5'11", just under 200 pounds, and ran a 4.340. That's awesome. Jahdae Barron edged out Will Johnson in interceptions, 5-2. Pass defenses had 11 tackle. He's a willing tackler. Texas players have to be willing to tackle, they can't be scared. And Jahdae Barron is just, in my opinion, a perfect complement initially to Jalen Ramsey, with the skill level and the potential and the ceiling to be our number 1 starting even as early as next year, in my opinion. And the pick for the Miami Dolphins at number 13 is Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
Okay. You know what? Now, Josh, I'm going to say this. You look at the offensive line prospects that are left. The only one that I could possibly really justify taking in the top 13 the only one left that could justify taking the top 13 is Josh Simmons, and even there, I think that's a little high for him.
Yeah.
So I think, based on how the board fell, cornerback was the clear pick for the Dolphins, and Jahdae Barron. I don't know if I like him more or less than Will Johnson. They're about even for me, but I think it's a good solid pick.
Yeah, they're close to even for me. The reason Jahdae edged, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Jesus, Johnson out.
Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Edged out Will Johnson is because of his positional flexibility. He can play inside. Yeah. He can kick outside. And I don't think Will Johnson can play inside. I don't think he's got the fast twitch and the IQ. I think Jahdae Barron's IQ is absolutely insane. Let me read a couple things to you guys real quick. All right. Jahdae Barron. Now, this is the percentile based on secondary players in this draft, right? He is 92. I always want to say 92. He's 92nd percentile in tackling. He's 93rd percentile in run defense. He's 99 percentile in coverage. He's 89th percentile in zone coverage, and he's 98th percentile in man press. He is outside of zone coverage. He's 90 or above. So if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the numbers I was reading right here. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah. All right. So Taylor, Dolphins channel. Taylor, what do you think about the pick?
Yeah, I really like the pick. I understand the need for offensive line there, but Keith, I think it hit nail on the head, as well as going to be my defense of it, because you look at how this board broke. Granted, I do have Josh Simmons as the number one offensive lineman in this draft.
Damn.
He's a monster.
Okay.
If he had not gotten hurt, I am seriously curious if he would have been seen as the clear-cut number one offensive lineman.
Okay.
But even that, like, you look at the issue of cornerback, like that is a starting position. Tackle, you draft a tackle. What do you do with Patrick Paul? What do you do with Austin Jackson? It becomes very muddy. I would not have been upset if you said Josh Simmons going 13, Josh. But Jahdae Barron, for all the reasons you said, I really like his positional flexibility. I do like how you can move him around. He is that kind of playmaker. So, yeah, I really like the pick.
Okay. We're going to move on to the Colts pick here, and I believe that's me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's me. All right, so the Colts team needs cornerback, tight end. I would argue quarterback. I'm a big fan of Anthony Richardson. That being said, I'm not going to draft Shedeur Sanders here. They brought in Daniel Jones to kind of push Anthony Richardson this offseason. They have decent wide receivers in Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. They drafted A.D. Mitchell in the second round, I believe, last year. First round, second round, I believe. Tight end, I suppose that's a need for them. But I do think cornerback's a need. I think that they need to focus a little bit more on their defense, because they've been focusing on offense for so long. And with that said, Will Johnson fell into their laps. This is kind of an easy pick for them. So Will Johnson's the pick.
I love that pick for them.
Yeah, and if Will Johnson falls all the way to 14, the Colts are 1,000% going to take a guy like Will Johnson with that pick. So yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that one?
Love the pick. I really like Will Johnson as a player. It's just. I wouldn't. Also, I mentioned wouldn't be upset with Josh Simmons. Wouldn't have been upset if you said Will Johnson either. That would be 3 impact players day one who I think would make an impact for the Dolphins.
Yeah,
positively. I would add there.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Atlanta Falcons team. Well, Taylor, this is you, right? Yeah, this is your pick here, Taylor. Yeah.
So edge rusher should probably be in marker for the Falcons here.
Yeah.
The question is who? Now, there are allegations against Mike Green right now, who is, by the way, in terms of on-field, I don't think he could be doing any better on-field at crushing this draft process. But off-field, there are, I'll just say, questions there. And then you got Shamar Stewart, who I think is another player who is absolutely crushing the draft process. So do you draft one of those two high-end athletic freaks who can end up being a top edge rusher? Do you go with somebody like Donovan Izaraku or Nick Scorton, who are more, to me, safer, quote-unquote, players? And I'm going to go Shamar Stewart. I really like that.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Nice
This
pick.
dude is the best way. I have it written down here. He's a fridge on wheels. It doesn't make sense. Like him and Scorton both being at the size they are, and they both move so fast. It doesn't compute. It really doesn't. The production's the issue, but we're Dolphin fans. We saw Chop Robinson, who didn't have the greatest production at Penn State. So we kind of learned the hard way that production doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a horrible player at the next level.
Yeah,
but there's enough talent here to justify it.
That's a really good pick. I mean, the dude is 6'6". He ran a 4.5 40. I mean, that's Ivan Drago level.
And the film shows it's not just, and I'm glad you're pointing out all the percentiles and all that stuff, but the film also shows that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like a good combination of all that I think is important. The only problem is Stewart just got there hair too late every time, which is something he's got to get better at, but you're seeing him almost get there. It's almost clicking for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the pick a lot. It's a solid pick for the Falcons. And like you said, Taylor, edge needs to be the pick no matter what for them.
Mm-hmm.
They need some dudes to rush the quarterback. It's kind of ridiculous at this point.
Yep. And I can tell you this, boys, if this is how the board falls for Arizona, they are up there before Shamar Stewart is even off the stadium or the podium to turn in their pick. This is going to be super simple, right? They need O-line help, something fierce. Josh Simmons is on the board. He's their pick. That is, to me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And this is about where I saw Josh Simmons going, where I see Josh Simmons going. I think it's a good pick for them. It's a solid pick for Arizona.
Yeah, they need defensive tackle help. They need wide receivers. Yep. But a player like Josh Simmons is on the board. You don't take a Matthew Golden or a Walter Nolan, for example, who I'm high on out of Ole Miss, over Josh Simmons. That dude is a menace.
Yeah,
across the offensive or as an offensive tackle.
So, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock now. Pick
Shador Sanders, right?
yeah. Joe Burrow's like, bring in that competition. But the Bengals are a team. Man, they have Joe Burrow, they have Jamar Chase, they have T. Higgins. Man, not much else. Like the cupboard is kind of bare there. They have
trenches, right? Like
what's
just
that?
Elephant in the room is just the trenches. It's kind of similar to Miami in a way. Like both teams built their team through quarterback and wide receivers. Both are having the same issues.
Yep.
So,
it's becoming ridiculous at this point. So they do need somebody in the trenches. And I looked through, James Pierce, I don't know, is a great fit for them. Michael Williams, again, I'm not sure it's a great fit. So I got offensive line. I don't like the offensive linemen that are left, honestly. I got a defensive line, and I see Walter Nolan. I see Walter Nolan available to them, and he would be the smart pick. Do I think the Bengals are going to make the smart pick? I don't know. They're not very good at making the smart pick, but Walter Nolan would be my pick for them.
That's a great pick, dude. That's a great pick.
Yeah. Again, it's anybody's guess what the Bengals are going to do in this draft. They could literally go in a million different directions.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who I would take for them. We're going to move on to the Seattle Seahawks now. New coach, not a new coach, new quarterback in Sam Darnold. Is this you, Josh?
Nope.
Oh, it's Taylor. Okay.
So Anthony brought up in our chat here, where's Jalen Walker? Where's Jalen Walker? A lot of mock drafts have him going so high. And honestly, I think one of the reasons why is just because I don't know what he is. he's in this weird purgatory of both being an off-ball linebacker and an edge rusher, but not particularly grading out well at either one. But then you watch the film, and you watch that Texas tape in particular. He destroys. I think it's Kelvin Banks Jr. Like, he eats his lunch money for pretty much the whole game. So I'm going to go Jalen Walker, not Jalen Walker Jr., just Jalen Walker here with this pick. I think he provides some linebacker help and some edge rusher help as you try to figure out what he's going to be at the next level.
I think he's a linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Kyle Van Noy.
There we go.
Of who?
Kyle Van Noy, you said.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That guy can go screw himself. All right. So Tampa Bay's on the board. Can you click over to edge for me, please?
Yes, sir.
I think this is, look, they need safety help, right? They need defensive line help.
Yeah.
They need wide receiver help. I know this this might not be the place to take this player, but could you click over into the safety DBs for me, please?
Yes.
So this is a place where I considered Nick Imanwari, right? Okay. I think no, I'm not going to draft him. We're not drafting him, but
all right.
That I was thinking about it, right? Because I think he fits their scheme, but with their need at edge, in which I think is better or is more important for them, I have them taking Tennessee edge. Go ahead and click over for me. James Pierce Jr.
Love that pick.
Yep.
I was wondering when James Pierce was going to go.
Yeah, this was a fall. This was definitely a fall for him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a nice pick for them. Vontae Mack, no matter what, Anthony.
That's hilarious.
All right, so we're moving on to the Denver Broncos, and with the Denver Broncos, I see a team that has Cortland Sutton at wide receiver, and not a whole lot else. They've got.
I'm sure Sutton has 1 year.
Timeout, fellas. I got some breaking news that we're not going to like. Patriots and 4-time Pro Bowl Stephon Diggs reach a 3-year, $69 million deal. Stephon Diggs is back in the AFC East.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, that means he's off. That means he's off limits in my fantasy football draft.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt you guys, but I thought that was, in Kyle Krabs' words, that was a wee woo.
Yeah. Yeah, want to overpay, Anthony says. Yeah, it was. It's for past production. We'll see how much he has left in the tank. Stephon Diggs. And I'm going to go for another wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. They have Cortland Sutton. They have not much else. And Cortland Sutton's kind of getting on there in years. So I actually like Emeka Egbuka here. I think I like him better than Luther Burden and Matthew Golden. I like a lot, but Emeka Egbuka here is too enticing for me to pick up, for me to not take. So I'm going to take him.
Golden was tough because Golden, he's a great wide receiver, man. I'm high on Matthew Golden.
I'm a little bit higher on Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do not disagree with you at all. But I don't think for me it's not as easy.
There's something about Egbuka, like I don't know if like safe prospect, like we all say that, but who knows? Like all this is a stab in the dark. Mm-hmm. But there is something about Egbuka over the last few years that you're like, yeah, I think he's gonna be solid at the NFL. Yeah. At the very least.
There's a floor. And with a young quarterback like Bo Nix, and an aging wide receiver in Cortland Sutton, Broncos really can't afford to screw this pick up. Mm-hmm. So Egbuka is my pick. We're going to move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
Hey, before we get to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I just want to shout out Matt in the chat. Thanks for joining us live.
Absolutely.
He when we were picking the Dolphins and going forward, he's like, "Oh man, seems like most teams need offensive line help. I hope we get them first." I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. And that's an exercise like this can be disheartening, honestly, because we know we need offensive line help, and then we go through the other teams, and it's like, well, yeah, an offensive lineman makes sense here, it makes sense here, it makes sense here, and then before you know it, the cupboard's kind of bare for what you're going to take in the first round. And I don't dislike the Jahdae Barron pick, but I would have liked it better if good offensive lineman would have fallen to us, but
Sorry, fellas.
Wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be. So we're going to move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And who has that?
Taylor.
Well, this is a tough one because they do need a quarterback. And we have no idea what's going to happen with the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Even still, they're going to need a quarterback for the future.
Yeah.
Because, as we all know, Skylar Thompson is on that roster. And Mason Rudolph is the only thing.
Wait a minute. Is this it? Is this the pick?
Well, hold on. I'm building up here. Skylar Thompson on this roster. So is Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is one hit away from Skylar Thompson taking hits or taking snaps for the Steelers. I really am tempted to go Shedeur Sanders here. And that would just plunge everything into chaos.
It really would. It really would.
But I cannot pass up Amarian Hampton. Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. I do think we get 2 running backs in this first round. And I love Amarian Hampton as a player. This man is, to me, he looks so much like DeMarco Murray.
You kind of flip things on us. I really thought you were going Shedeur Sanders.
Me too.
And you went Amarian Hampton. I like the pick. They lost Najee Harris in free agency.
The way it felt like that was one of those two. But Amarian Hampton, that they have a need at running back. I think they still do have Jalen Warren, but you lose Najee Harris, like you said, to free agency. And, you're going to get a human pinball, essentially, at running back, who's way faster than Najee Harris, which is a low bar, but he is actually pretty fast for his size.
He also has better vision. Like Najee Harris, just terrible vision. Najee Harris had the unique ability to turn 6-yard runs into 3-yard runs. It was maddening to watch that guy run. So I like the pick, actually. I like it a lot. It fits what the Steelers want to do offensively. Wow, didn't see it coming, but I like it.
By the way, I don't know what to do here. I really don't.
Yeah.
Just because you guys have the additions you've had on the offensive line. Offensive line would be a potential addition here. But, I mean, you look at the wide receivers you added, you want to add to that skill position group a little more, help out Mason Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers. It's the best player I saw on the board for.
Also, if Mason Rudolph is their starting quarterback going into the season, Steelers are going to have a bad season.
Well, they're going to wish they drafted Sanders.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, and it's weird because I just don't see a world in which Sanders is outside of the top 10, right? I mean, there's going to be a team that is going to say all in chips, screw it, we'll figure it out, right? And unfortunately, just understand for those that are watching, like we are acting as the war room for each of the teams that we're drafting for, and none of us are big fans of Sanders, which is why he's still on the board.
Yeah, and I mean. Yeah, that's exactly it. None of us like Sanders all that much.
I mean, looking at the teams that are left, there's in this at least live 32 team. I don't see him getting drafted.
He might not.
This is where a trade would happen for a Jackson Dart or a Shedeur Sanders, whoever falls. But again, we're not doing trades, so this is kind of that problem where some players are going to get left out in this exercise.
Absolutely. All right, so Chargers.
The Chargers. That's your pick, Josh.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep this short and sweet, right? They need offensive line help. They need wide receiver help. They need defensive line help, but I'm not going with any of those. Not going with any of them. So, Chargers fan, I apologize. Corton Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, just seems like a perfect fit for them. Fits what the type of scheme they run, will block his rear end off, can contribute in the passing game. Is fast twitch. I mean, I'm a big fan of Corton Loveland, and I think he's a perfect fit for this team, especially given who his coach was in college, not last season, but the year before, and who the Chargers coach is now.
I actually like the pick.
Mm-hmm.
It'll give Justin Herbert a nice little safety blanket there. It's a nice pick for them.
And he blocks his rear end off. I mean, he's a nasty blocker. So
yeah.
At least in my opinion.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Green Bay Packers. And, they have needs at offensive line, at cornerback, maybe at guard. But this feels like a Nick Emmanwori pick to me.
That's a great selection for them.
He fits exactly what the Green Bay Packers want to do. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in Green Bay for the next 10 years, wreaking havoc on teams' offenses. I like that pick for them.
I love that pick.
Yeah.
Nick Manoir is one of my favorite players in this draft. I mean, like top tier man crush material from a player standpoint. Like just tall, fast, is around the ball, has a high IQ. He's who I wanted. You know, I would love for him to be in Miami. Unfortunately, I think there's a better player that's you can kind of see on the bottom of who's left that fits what Miami needs. But Nick Manoir is a freaking machine.
Yeah. And you know what? If he falls all the way to 23, the Packers are going to run to the podium to put in the card for him. We're going to move on to the Minnesota Vikings. Taylor?
Well, I would have took him in Worry going to the Vikings. I thought that would have been a perfect selection, especially considering everything the Vikings have done in free agency.
Yeah.
It just feels like they're, hey, you know what? This is a luxury pick for us. What do we want to do? We want to find a replacement for Harrison Smith. We want to get a wide receiver 3. Like, what do we want to do? Man. Stuff. I'm gonna go Malachi Starks.
Oh,
Malachi Starks.
Right to the heart. Oh.
A different kind of safety than Emanwari. And honestly, I like him so much more than Emanwari. I know you guys are big fans, but we'll get into it whenever we get into our round 1 grades and getting into the deeper dives of the prospects. But not only are they different types of safeties, but is something about it feels like there's a lot more development with Emanwari compared to Starks.
Yeah.
And at safety, I'm not a big fan of the project safeties, for the lack of a better way to put it.
No, I'm with you. Honestly, I mean, if Starks was, I was considering him at 13. That's how much I love. You guys know this. He was my first selection, like months and months ago. He was the guy that I was banging the table for, and then I kind of cooled off on him because I was getting redundant. But big fan of Starks. He's going to be a great player for many years.
Okay. I actually like the pick a lot. And again, these are guys that are falling, like guys like Malachi Stark, guys like Nick Emanwari, James Pierce fell a lot. Like these are guys that are falling, and there's going to be guys that fall like this. And again, if Malachi Starks is there for the Vikings, they'd be remiss not to take a guy like that. We're going to move on to the Houston Texans. That's you, Josh.
Yeah, this is tough for me, man, because I don't really know. I have different needs than some different needs than what's on the screen. Like, this website has them needing a running back, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and a guard. I have wide receiver, interior defensive lineman, and offensive lineman in no specific order. Looking at the board, though, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know where to go with this, if I'm being honest. So, I mean, let's click around a little bit, right? So let's go to offensive line. Let's just see who's there at pick 25, right? So Gray Zabel, I'm a huge fan of, and where I can understand he is probably more a round 2 pick. I can also understand how teams later in the draft, that pick later in the rounds, could see him as a solid player, right? That because he can play a lot of positions. He's got a ton of starts. He is the work, the lunch pail, hard hat. I'm coming to work. I'm going to punch you in the mouth and I'm going to drive you to the school bus on your back heels. That's the kind of player he is. I love Zabel, right? But I still think personally 25 is probably a little too high for him, right? So what else do they need? Interior defensive lineman. Let's take a look at DL, right? Mikael Williams, very good choice here, right? Nick Scorton, very good choice here. Okay. There are some options here. Wide receiver, we know who's available, but but Houston already has Tank Dell and Nico Collins and John Mechie III. So, I mean,
now Tank Dell's coming back from a major injury.
Yes, he is. So, I mean, does it make sense to continue to bolster CJ Stroud's weapons? There can be an argument made, right? I think there can be. But honestly, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go here. So let's do a consensus on this, right? I mean, I would say for me, it's between Matthew Golden, from Texas, the wide receiver, or Grays, or sorry, not Zabel. Go to the defensive lineman one more time for me, please.
Mhm.
Or Mikael Williams. Those would
Okay.
be my two picks that I'm deciding between as a Houston Texan. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't have for the Texans. I probably wouldn't take either of those guys.
Okay, who would you take?
I would take Josh Connerly. They just lost Laramie Tunsil.
Right. Go ahead. Go to offensive line.
Yeah, but that's just me. I think Josh Connerly's ranked a little bit low here. And I do like Gray Zabel, but he's a guard and he's going to be one of those guards who is going to stick in the league for 10 plus years. Like Gray Zabel a lot, but Josh Connerly has a much higher ceiling.
All right.
And
what about
that's what I'll go for the Texans.
Okay, what about you, Taylor?
I get Gray Zabel as a first round grade.
Yeah.
I think he's going to end up playing center at the next level. Connerly, I agree with Keith. I think that's a great pick. And also Ariante Ursary, who I think is in that borderline.
Yeah.
I think I have him as a round 2 grade, but I would not be surprised if he did squeak in it then around.
Yeah, I forgot about Connerly. I forgot how much I liked him. That's going to be the pick, I think.
Connerly?
The Texans trading Tunsil and how bad that offensive line was.
Yeah. I mean, offensive line has to be the pick here. I mean, yeah.
I agree.
All right, there you go.
I agree. That's how I would have gone for. Now, it's the Rams pick. There's a guy we haven't even looked at yet. And
don't tell me. Don't tell me.
That's a problem. Look, this guy is a thumper. You put him on the defense with the guys they got last year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse, and the other guy from Florida State, Josh, help me out. Braden Fisk, yeah.
Yeah, Verse is from Florida State too. Sorry, I got confused.
Yeah, they're both from Florida State. Look, Jahad Campbell, he's falling. He's ranked a little bit low. But this guy, put him in the middle of this Rams defense. Jahad Campbell's my pick.
That's a pick that was made in heaven for the Rams, man.
Yep. I've been looking at that for a while. I was like, if Jahad Campbell falls all the way here, I can't not take him for the Rams.
Yeah.
It's that injury. Like, I think he would have been a lot higher if he had not torn his labrum.
Yeah.
Following the combine. So
I mean, honestly,
I get why he didn't get picked beforehand in this mock draft and this exercise.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, fellas. He was one that I was looking at 13 too, because him as our as one of our linebackers next to Brooks would be insane.
All right, so moving
on.
I'm
glad you went ahead and picked him here, because it goes to show yet again the point of this exercise with no trades. The players that were sitting here and why movement is definitely going to happen in this draft. You got Mike Green still sitting there, 2 quarterbacks that people are projecting as first-round picks with Shador and Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
I mean, there's players out here that will probably be gone, realistically.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Sanders isn't going to be here. Golden might not be here. Mikael Williams.
There'll be a run on wide receivers later too, so I can see Golden and Burden being off the board by this point.
Yeah, and a guy like a team might fall in love with a guy like Mike Green and say, we can fix him as far as his off the field stuff goes, because as far as talent goes, guy's a top 10 talent. So this pick's yours, Taylor. The Baltimore Ravens.
So for the Ravens, I think you're looking at interior offensive lineman. You're looking at D-line. We just looked at offensive lineman as well.
Yep.
You know what? This is going to seem like it's going to seem outside the box. And I'm only picking this because I want to talk about the guy. And I think he's going to be a damn good player. Donovan Jackson. Offensive guard.
Donovan Jackson.
He's probably listed at tackle at Ohio State because he played tackle when Josh Simmons went down. This dude is just technically savvy. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to have many. I don't think he's going to have many flaws other than his speed coming out. he's one of the only players I've seen relatively locked down Abdul Carter. And he was playing out of position, keep in mind. So, yeah, man, I think you get a top-tier offensive lineman, possibly reach a bit, but I think it's worth it here.
I mean,
really
this is such a strong offensive line draft, though, too, is that, like, there are guys like Josh Connolly who could easily fall in the second round, who Josh just took for the Texans. Donovan Jackson's a guy I've seen mocked in the first round plenty of times. I actually love the pick, and it's one of those solid / annoying picks the Ravens always make that make me hate them so much. That's what the Ravens do.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, you look at the offensive lineman, Zabel all the way down to Imbow. I think there can be an argument made where 3 of those 5 are also off the board at some point, right? I mean, that's how deep this draft is at the across the offensive line.
All right, so we're gonna try and get this done before the hour and a half mark hits here, Josh.
Yep.
Lions, your pick.
Yeah, so I have edge rusher, cornerback, wide receivers, and center, right? So I think, can you go over to the edges for me? Because it's Gray Zabel is an option for me, but for me, knowing Man Campbell, right, as their head coach, this is a Mike Green pick for me all day, every day.
All right.
They can get him in line, they'll put him in the Oklahoma drill and beat the stupid out of him, right? So I think it's a perfect pairing on the opposite of Hutch.
I like it.
Yep.
Now as far I like the pick for the Lions. It's a very high ceiling, low floor type of pick.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lions can kind of afford to make picks like that, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're such a good team. Yeah. They're so well rounded.
For the Washington Commanders, I see edge as a need. I definitely see cornerback as a need. And I like Siobhan Rebel a lot. And I think he's a good, solid pick for the Commanders here.
Now, be honest, you picked them so the Bills wouldn't, right?
yeah. I actually think the Bills are going to go wide receiver.
Me too.
But that's for Taylor to tell us about.
Yeah, no pressure, Taylor.
So I think in a realistic world, they probably go somebody like Maxwell Harrison, who I think is a fantastic playmaking corner. He's a speed demon. He's the one who had like a 4.2 40 at the combine, I believe. But Matthew Golden's still here, and if we don't pick Matthew Golden in the first round, oh man, the comments will be horrible. They're probably still going to be horrible. Besides the point, going Matthew Golden to the Bills.
All right. Yeah, he fell way too far, and if the Bills get Matthew Golden, I might break my TV.
We'll be live.
We'll be live, so I'll break this monitor right here,
dude. We'll be live on Nickel City Mafia, so they're going to be going nuts.
Yeah, they will. They'll be absolutely they will be going nuts.
Hey, shout out to Nickel City Mafia.
Yeah, and we will see. We're going to be doing a collab with them on nights 1 and 2 of the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please tune in. Kansas City Chiefs, your turn, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Kansas City got a little decimated in free agency, right? But I have their needs as defensive line, wide receiver, and running back, right? This website has offensive tackle, tight end, defensive tackle, and defensive line. This one's a little tough here. I want to kind of go Luther Burden just as a fun pick. Nick Scorton's also a really an option here, but I think I'm going to reach a little bit and go Zabel, offensive lineman. Yeah. This
is another one of those annoying picks that the Chiefs make that make you nuts. Yeah, I love the pick for the Chiefs. Jeez, that's a nice pick for them. He's going to be there for the next 10 years.
Really? I mean, he's that kind of player, right? I mean, I know their argument, he's a second-round pick, comes from a small school, North Dakota State. I in my mind, this is you plug him in at a position and you forget about that position for the next decade plus. That's the and the 31st overall pick. What the hell else could you ask for?
Exactly. Now the Eagles, they lost. I'm doing the last pick of the first round here, and then we're gonna sign off after this. But the Eagles' last pick of the first round, they lost Josh Sweat to the Arizona Cardinals. They lost Brandon Graham to retirement. They don't know what Bryce Huff's going to be. Bryce Huff just barely played for them last year, probably in Vic Fangio's doghouse. And then I look at the edge rushers and the Eagles. That's probably their number one need. And I see Michael Williams from Georgia. And like 6 or 7 of their starters are Georgia players. It's ridiculous. It's becoming a meme at this point. They might as well be the Philadelphia Bulldogs at this point. This feels like fate. So Michael Williams is going to the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's a frustratingly good pick for the Eagles.
Yeah,
and
they can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah. If you hit close, everything will still be here.
All right. So we went through round 1, guys.
You want to do a quick recap, super quick?
Yeah.
Just read. Like, you don't have to say who picked them. Just read 1 to 32.
Yes, I do. Let me control my computer real quick. Let's see. All right. So again, so we went Cam Moore to the Titans, Abdul Carter to the Cleveland Browns, Travis Hunter to the New York Giants, Armand Membu to the Patriots, Mason Graham to the Jaguars, Ashton Jenkins to the Raiders, Tyler Warren to the New York Jets, Ted McMillan to the Panthers, Will Campbell to the Saints, Kenneth Grant to the Bears. That's the top 10.
Really quick, pause you right there before you continue. So just as a reminder to those that are watching or those who are watching later, we did no trades, and we each picked as if we were running the franchise based on needs that we perceived. So we apologize if we didn't pick the player that you liked or you don't like the direction we went. There's Shedeur Sanders after the first round is still on the board. We are very, very aware that is never going to happen. A team will trade up, but again, we didn't have trades. Sorry. Go ahead.
We didn't have trades, and none of us really like Shedeur Sanders.
Yep.
If I was the GM of a team, I would not draft Shedeur Sanders. Period.
I'd still take him. I have a fringe first on him, but still, besides,
I shouldn't speak for anybody else. If I was the GM of an NFL team, I would not pick Shedeur Sanders in the first round or the 7th round. I don't want him on my team. Period.
I like it. Let's continue. What do we get?
All right. So Kelvin Banks went number 11 to the 49ers. Tyler Booker to the Cowboys at number 12. Jahdae Barron to the Dolphins. Now, again, this is the Dolphins channel. We should give a little explanation here. We all like offensive line here, but as you can see, we had Membu going at 4. We had Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Tyler Booker. There was quite a run on offensive linemen.
And defensive linemen.
And defensive linemen. There wasn't really a guy we could justify taking there at 13, other than a cornerback, which is also a need for the Dolphins. So Jahdae Barron was the pick.
And just as some additional context, there were decisions made between Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, and then in my mind, Malachi Starks, the safety, and Jihad Campbell, the linebacker. Those were the 4 players that I was tossing around in my head when I made
Evan Morey. Don't lie, Josh. You like Evan Morey too.
I do. Yeah.
All right. So Jahdae Barron was the pick. Josh, that was a nice pick there. I probably would have taken him too. Moving on, we had Will Johnson going right after Jahdae Barron to the Colts. Shamar Stewart at number 15 to the Seahawks. To the Falcons. To the Falcons.
Seahawks, Panthers, Falcons.
Yeah. Josh Simmons to the Cardinals, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Walter Nolan to the Bengals. Jalen Walker fell pretty far to the Seahawks there. James Pierce to the Bucks. Emeka Egbuka to the Broncos. Marion Hampton to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Surprise pick there by Taylor. Colson Loveland to the Chargers. Nick Emenwari to the Packers. Malachi Starks went to the Vikings. Josh Connolly. They just lost Laramie Tunsil, so he went to the Texans. Jihad Campbell to the Rams. Donovan Jackson, nice solid pick there for the Baltimore Ravens. Annoyingly solid pick for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Green, high upside pick for the Lions. Siobhan Rebel to the Commanders. Matthew Golden, annoying pick to the Bills. Man, that would suck. Greg Zabel to the Chiefs, and then Michael Williams rounding up the first round, going to the Philadelphia Eagles with 32. So guys, if you like what you saw here, please like, subscribe, leave some comments. Who would you guys have taken with these picks? Did we miss anybody? Did anybody fall out of the first round that other than Shador Sanders that should not have fallen out of the first round in your mind. Please let us know.
And don't forget, we're doing a live 7-round Miami Dolphins mock tomorrow night at 7 a.m. Jesus, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. We will be back tomorrow night.
Be 7 a.m.
So 7 p.m. We're going to be doing a 7-round mock for the Dolphins, the Dolphins centric mock, and we're really going to dive into with trades. We're going to dive into all the Dolphins team needs. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So please tune in tomorrow night. Josh, do you have any final thoughts?
I sure don't. Fins up, baby.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun tonight, guys.
It was.
I honestly think we should do this again. It's again like right before the draft.
That's fine. Yeah, we have a show after next week that we need to fill spots. We can just do this again.
There we go. All right, Taylor. Any final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Tune in tomorrow for Dolphin Centric Mock Draft.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please tune in tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow. It was great being here tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow at 7:00.
Awesome. Fins up, baby.
Fins up.